Hey everybody, welcome back to One Seed, One World. So here we are in the month of June, and June is kind of that weird month of gardening where you have a lot of stuff growing. You may have harvested a few things, say like maybe some early crops like radish or kale or lettuces, spinach, that kind of thing. But your garden hasn't reached full peak yet. You probably aren't getting tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and that kind of thing this time of year unless you're much farther south than I am. But there's a few things that you can do in June to make sure that you have a thriving garden in July when that peak season comes on, when the chaotic heat comes on, maybe some drought season, to kind of help you prepare for that. So today I'm going to go over a few things that you can do to ensure that you have a great garden come July. And also one of the main things that I always try and get done every June to ensure that things are going well in July. So one of the first things you want to look at is if your garden needs any more fertilizer or compost. Now this will depend on how good your soil is, how you started off your season, or if you have started to take out maybe plants that have already drawn up some of the nutrients out of the soil. Like say your spinach has already gone to seed and you want to start clearing that out and plant something else there. You might want to add some additional compost or a type of fertilizer. Now with my garden beds here, I do a garden soil mix that I top the beds off with already early in the season, and it's a mix of topsoil and composted like horse manure, cow manure, that kind of thing. So most of my raised beds won't really need anything right now. But I also have things in containers, and if you're container gardening, those types of, because they're smaller and they're not getting more nutrients out of the soil, you kind of have to feed them a little bit more regularly. So if you are container gardening or you have some areas in other parts of your garden, that might be lacking. This might be the time of year that you will want to add a little bit of top dressing. You don't have to dig it down deep or anything like that. You can just top dress it, which is just laying some on top of the soil, kind of, around your plants to give them, and that will, over time, will break down and with rain and sun and whatnot, the nutrients will soak down in the soil and feed your plants. Normally I prefer rabbit manure. I've used that for almost, I guess, eight years now, but our rabbit died last year, and so I'm not getting any new rabbit manure anymore. However, I do have a half a barrel left because rabbits do poop a lot, that I will be able to use this year. But then the other thing that I will use is this organic Neptune Harvest. I'll put a link down below. I think this is like, what is this, a gallon or a half gallon? I don't know, it says it's 9 pounds, 3,784 milliliters, whatever that is. But this stuff is awesome and will last forever. I mean, you saw the shape of the jug, how rough looking this jug is, because I've had it for a while. But it's just a organic fish and seaweed fertilizer. You only need a couple of tablespoons per gallon of water. And so, especially for like container gardening, you just mix some in the water and then use water that are on your plants. It does fantastic for giving your plants some additional boost of nutrients that they might need. So it's not cheap. I can't remember the exact price, but you'll see it on the link if you check it out. It might be as much as $48 or so. I can't remember though. So look at the link, don't go by what I'm saying, but I do remember it was a little bit pricey. However, it lasts a long time unless you're, using it a lot. But I've had this for like 3 years. So, I mean, you break that down over a 3-year course, even if it was $50, you're paying less than $20 per year for some fertilizer. It does a great job. But, use whatever that you're able to get. And even just if you've got some good compost that you've made yourself, then, top dress your garden with that. All right, so the next thing that you want to look at and it's the one thing that I will do every June, and that is mulching, because you want to get your mulch in before the real high heats of July and August start rolling in. You will thank yourself for sure later, because one, it helps keep weeds down, helps keep the soil cooler, and helps hold in moisture when you hit some of those drought areas or drought times of the summer. And during June, you'll also want to check your watering schedule. Now that your plants are getting more established, you're not going to need to water as frequently, but when you do water, you want to water deeply, because that will soak the water down in the ground and encourage your bigger roots now to get stronger and go deeper. You don't want to do light waterings over the top, because that's going to make them weaker. They're going to be searching for the moisture. And this is only if you haven't gotten enough rain. I mean, like, we've had some heavy rains here over the past couple weeks. It has been dry for a few days. So depending on what happens this weekend, I might need to do some watering myself, but so far I'm good here. But you know, check your soil and see how the plants are looking, how the dirt, you know, you can stick your finger down on the soil, see how dry it is, how far down. And some of this will depend on whether you're in a raised bed, in a container, or planting directly in the ground. If you are in just the smaller containers, they're going to need watering more frequently because they tend to dry out a lot faster. And raised beds will dry out faster than being in the ground, depending on how deep and wide your raised beds are. So you want to get some mulch on there to start keeping your weeds down and holding that moisture in, so that when July rolls around, you don't have to worry about it as much. I just got a delivery of mulch today. One tip about mulch, if you have a larger garden, definitely look into buying in bulk instead of buying a whole bunch of bags, say from a big box store like Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that. Try to get to know maybe a local company in your area that will deliver it, you know, bring it to your house and drop off a truckload or a dump truckload or however much you need. I've been working with the same company now for almost a decade, who brings me my mulch, dirt, a lot of my gardening needs I get from them, because I can buy it in bulk. It's cheaper. They're local. I know them. You're supporting another local business, and so look into doing that. It's going to save you some money, and you get to know your neighbors. Okay, so the next thing that you want to look at is maintenance of your plants, like pruning and trellising. Like, I need to get in here and prune the bottoms of my tomatoes, because I'm starting to get you know, a lot of suckers growing out, and also I've got ones that are growing out and hitting the soil. And so you can prune up, you know, 6 inches or more on the bottom of the tomato plant if it's an indeterminate. If it's a determinate, you can probably do a few inches up, but you don't want to go crazy pruning anymore on the higher plant, because it's determinate and you want to get as much fruit as possible. But any of your indeterminates, you can, you know, start taking out suckers and getting all these leaves up off the ground, because this is a potential for disease. A lot of the diseases that your tomatoes are going to get are soil borne, and so when it rains, water splashes up onto the plants and can transfer any disease in the soil, like different funguses, verticillium wilt, that kind of thing. And so if you get your leaves up off the ground, that will help reduce any issues with that. And then also when you add mulch on top, then that helps give you a little bit more of a barrier as well. And then depending on what your tomatoes are doing, mine aren't quite there yet. I have one that's starting to lean, it's a little bit taller, it's starting to lean up the row a little bit. But now start looking, is your plants following the trellis where you need them to go? And you know, you want to start putting your first ties on if you need to get them connected and trained toward the trellis, because right now in June, you're kind of the boss of the garden. You can start training them. By the time July rolls around, the garden is the boss of you. So the precautions and things that you do early in the season will save you a lot of heartache later in the year. The next thing to look for is your pests. June is when pest pressure really starts to ramp up in the garden. So start checking the undersides of your leaves for eggs, or like here with my dragon tongue beans, I've got some holes in them, and actually I've got 4 or 5 plants that were completely shaved off. I'll show you a closer up clip so you can see that. And after doing a little bit of digging around, coming out here early in the morning, I discovered that it was some little slugs that were munching on my bean plants. And so you want to start looking at what kind of pests you're dealing with and mitigation methods for that. Speaking of that, I do on my Etsy site, and I will put a link down below, I have a PDF about a lot of the common bugs and pests in your garden for the US mainly. And it will go over the life cycle of the bugs. It's got color pictures, it's got a clickable index, it's a searchable PDF download that you can purchase on there. But it covers a lot of the bugs and then gives you some different types of mitigation methods that you can use. And you know, different bugs will require different things, and what works for one garden might not work for your garden. So sometimes you kind of have to try different things. But my bug guide gives you different options that you can try to see what works for you, and plus you get to learn a lot about the bugs. So check that out, but start looking for your bug pressure and look at the ways that you want to mitigate that to kind of get ahead of it before they really start spreading. Because if you can catch some of the stuff early, like find the little eggs on the underside of leaves, crush them, get ahead of them, it will prevent them from being overblown infestation come July. So June is a month where you can breathe a little bit, take a look around and make some small changes and some small preparations that will save you a lot of work come July and August. And so if you follow a few of these tips, I think it's going to really help benefit you and give you a thriving garden come, you know, later on in the summer. But let me know how your garden is doing right now, whether it's thriving or struggling or somewhere in between. Put it in the comments below. And then one last thing that you might want to think about is future planning. What are you going to be doing in July, and what do you need to do to prepare for that? Do you need to think about putting up some sort of like shade cover if you live in a hotter area or expecting a hotter than normal summer? Do you need to think about your succession planning, whether you have stuff that's going to be coming out early and what crops you're going to plant there to be done in time before your first frost rolls around in, you know, the fall, or are you doing different things once things are harvested out, or plan on maybe squash bugs taking out your zucchini or the vine borers, and you might need a succession plant to take care of some of that, or succession planting your radishes as you're harvesting, or lettuces and different things as it gets hot out. So kind of look at where your garden is right now, what you want to do come midsummer, and how to plan in between. And if you do that planning ahead, you're going to have a fantastic thriving garden come July and August. So I hope those tips were helpful, and I appreciate that you're hanging out with me here again today. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, and then, you know, like the video, share the video, add some comments, do all the stuff. But whatever's going on in your neck of the woods, I hope it's working out fantastic for you, and we will see you again soon. Have a great day. Namaste.
One seed, one world, just plant it and see. One